I'm going to give you all a demonstration on how to operate a Bobcat Toolcat for snow removal operations. So we're going to learn about how to operate the inside of the machine. We're going to talk about walking around, what we look for during a walk around, and then also how we change attachments. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the machine and check it over. These are the stands for the hydraulic broom. Need to make sure that they are extended down so that the weight of the broom rests on the ground instead of on the bristles, so we don't ruin the bristles. We're going to confirm that the attachment that is on the machine is locked. So these levers, when they're up or they're disengaged, when they're down, locks the attachment on the machine. And then we need to always make sure that these wedges go underneath there and connect to the attachment. Both levers down like they are now would indicate that the attachment is attached. To disconnect and change attachments, we'll want to make sure our feet are back, lift both arms up like this, and then we can roll the loader attachment forward and it can disconnect. So while we're here, we check our hydraulic connections to make sure they're all connected properly and the wiring connection. During our basic walk around, just looking for, make sure the tires are inflated properly and that there is no things hanging off or loose off the machine. And this location is where we add hydraulic fluid, and this is where you check the hydraulic level in the machine to make sure it has adequate hydraulic fluid in the machine. This is where you add diesel fuel to the machine. It's on the passenger side. Next thing we're going to do is get in the cab and we're going to confirm that the lights work. So there's a button over here to turn on the lights. And then also we can turn on our top beacon light here. And we also have additional lights and flashers that we can turn on here. So now we'll get out and confirm that we have lights. The top operational lights are working and the strobe light on top are working. We confirm the tail lights are working. Confirm that the back work lights are working. And this back light on the salt spreader is working. Okay. Now after we've confirmed that all the lights are working prior to operation, when we get in, we'll put our seatbelt on. We're going to start the machine by operating the key. I always place my foot on the brake. Confirm that the lever is in neutral on the shuttle shift on your left hand. The next thing we'll do is this bar that is also an armrest turns on all the hydraulics and enables the machine to operate. This is your safety lever. So once this lever goes down, your loader is now operational, and your forward and your reverse is now operational. Once this is up, nothing will work. Your loader will not operate. So in order to operate the loader, the lever down, and we can operate the equipment. So now that we're operating the equipment, a couple things inside the cab. This is your throttle, the red lever beside your hand. Once you put the machine in reverse, you use the gas pedal as a hydrostat. It is not a throttle. So you simply push it and it moves the machine forward or backwards with your gas pedal. It's a forward reverse pedal. It is not a throttle. This is your throttle and it can be set at any RPM desired level. The next thing we're going to learn is how to operate the auxiliary hydraulics to operate the hydraulic broom. So in order to operate the auxiliary hydraulics, you go on your dash and you press the button that says auxiliary hydraulics. Once you do that, this light will come on. We then lift the broom up so we can see the bristles. And then we pull the trigger on the back side of the handle. There's a trigger right here. on the bottom side. I don't know if you can see that. Once I pull that trigger, that turns the auxiliary hydraulics on constant. As you can see it rotating. You're going to want to run the machine at a higher RPM so that you can move more snow. In order to turn the broom off, we pull the trigger again, and we always want to make sure the rotation of the broom is pushing the snow forward and ahead of us and not toward us. They should be set to always push the snow away from us in front of the machine. The next thing I want to show you how to do is operate the angle. This center button that has an arrow on it rotates the broom right and left, as you can see. It is normal for the broom to rotate while it does it because it's getting flow to the machine. So once we know that everything is operating properly, we're going to make sure the parking brake is still set, which the parking brake set means the light is on. We're in neutral. We're going to get back out of the machine and lift up the legs on the broom so we can operate the broom. Lift them up and twist them. And there's a small groove there so the handle don't fall back down. So it is down, we lift it up, we twist it, drops in there and sets. We do that side. There's a groove that the notch has to find. You lift it up, turn it, set it there. Now both safety stops so it don't ruin the bristles are lifted up, so we're ready to operate the broom now. When operating the broom, one of the most important things is to make sure that the broom is running level. So the other thing we want to do is make sure that we don't angle it too much. Like half the amount of angle is sufficient to broom while you're brooming. When you go extreme amounts of angle, it wears the bristles out faster. The other thing is every hour or two, we want to rotate the direction we're going with the broom, so we're not always brooming the same direction, so don't wear the bristles out more on one side. With these machines, you'll want to turn on the auxiliary hydraulics before you put it on the ground. You lower it down so the broom is just barely touching the concrete. It's just barely touching the concrete. And then we're going to set the throttle at a high RPM, and then we'll put the machine in forward and creep forward. Creep forward while the attachment's going. We never back up with the broom down. We always lift the broom up to back up. So we barely touch the ground with the broom, and we pull forward. We lift the broom up to back up. We idle the machine back down to stop brooming. We click the trigger to turn off the broom. Then we always set the parking brake back. To engage the parking brake, you press the park button or you disengage the park button. You also have an option to have high and low. The high and low button is on the end of the joystick. There will be a rabbit that indicates on the screen that shows that you're in high range. You press the end of the joystick, it will put it back in turtle mode. Always operate your broom in turtle mode. Some other things that you need to know is how to operate the bed. This apparatus up here operates the snow bed or the salt bed on the back of these machines. Once you flip the switch on, you set your auger speed and your spinner speed with these dials. There's also a vibrate function for it to get the remainder of the salt out. But before we ever load it, we always make sure that the spreader and the chain are both working. So we have the spreader working. Confirm the auger and the spinner are working prior to loading the machine with any kind of salt or knack. Always remember this material is very expensive and to turn it off anytime you went over someplace that you've already been on. The next thing we're going to do is learn how to take off a broom attachment and prepare to put on another attachment, either a blade or a pusher or a bucket. So in order to take off an attachment, we'll get back in the machine, start the machine up, put the lever down, lift the broom up slightly off the ground. Make sure our parking brake is set. We always turn the machine back off. And this turning the machine off helps take off the pressure off the hydraulic lines. The next step we're going to do is we're going to put down our jacks. Once we put them down, we're going to make sure they're down, and we're going to rotate them. Come down. That way the broom rests on the steel instead of resting on the bristles, because if you leave it on the bristles, they'll get uneven and it won't work right next time you go to operate it. While we're on this side of the machine, I generally go ahead and disconnect the quick coupler from this on this side. We then come over here, disconnect the quick coupler hydraulics, and unhook the electrical connection that runs the angle. We always put these hoses up here and wires so they don't get bent or broken or fall down. We always make sure they're secured up there. If we need to, we get a bungee cord. There's a cap here that goes on the electrical connection. And then while we're here, we'll simply disconnect the other quick coupler off the skid loader plate here. Now we're ready to get back in the machine and take the broom off. Now that the broom's disconnected, you'll see that these levers are still up, and we'll be ready to go hook on another apparatus. We'll go hook up the snow pusher now. When you're pulling up to it, I try to always make sure you get the height right and not have too much tilt, but just a little bit of tilt on the quick connect. As I pull up to the machine, I always try to line up both sides to make sure it looks even. And then always be careful not to mess the handles up when you're coming up through there. As you can see, I'm tilting it a little bit and it looks good. So now I'm gonna lift straight up, and then I always rotate the handle to my left to get it to seat in. Once we do that, we're gonna set the parking brake, take the seatbelt off, disengage the apparatus, get out, lock the lever, go to the other side, lock the lever. Once we get back in the machine, the first thing we're going to do is check that the attachment is completely attached and not going to come off. Put our seatbelt on, engage the hydraulics. Then we're going to check by tilting to make sure that it lifts the front of the machine slightly, lifts the front of the tires off the ground a little bit. This proves that it is connected correctly. So when we are running the snow pusher, the most important thing is that we run the machine level, that what I call the runners are running almost exactly level. The front and the back are parallel with the ground, and that you're not putting too much down pressure lifting the front of the machine off. This will cause unnecessary wear to the snow pusher. So you're wanting to have just barely touching the ground, and then we want the front and the back of the runner to be running about level with the asphalt. A lot of times what I do is once I get it set about where I think it needs to be, make sure parking brake's on, I disengage the hydraulics, take my seatbelt off, and then I get out and I look. I thought it was level. I can see now my front is actually not on the ground right now. So I'm going to get back in the machine. Seatbelt on, engage hydraulics, and now I know that I need to rotate it down a little bit. I'll reset. Disengage the hydraulics, take seatbelt off. I'm going to get out now and look. Yeah, it looks better. The front and the back is about even, and I'll check the front just to make sure that the rubber looks like it's touching the asphalt all the way across. It's not worn out, so I'm ready to go ahead and plow snow. I'm going to try to leave my angle of my loader operation about the same all the time, only raising it up and down, so that way I don't mess up my tilt and mess up my angle. It's always a good idea to run it for a little bit, get out and check, run for a few more minutes, get out and check until you get a really good feel of the, make sure you're level. Another thing to remember always whenever you're working with a snow pusher is we never back up with the snow pusher down. We push snow, then we pick it up, back up, and then we let it down and go again. Now I'm going to show everyone how to park a Toolcat. So once we get done utilizing the machine, we're going to start by pressing the parking brake. The light will indicate that the parking brake's on. We make sure everything, the attachments are lowered and the power is off to the salt box or sprayer or whatever extra attachment is on the back. We make sure that all the lights are turned off. All the flashers are turned off. At that point, we disengage the hydraulics. Then we're able to turn the machine off. And then we're able to make sure that the throttle was set all the way down. Make sure the joystick's in neutral. And then we're able to exit the machine. Thanks for watching our tutorial on how to operate a Toolcat for snow removal operations.